Shallows is directed by Jaume Collet-Serra, written by Anthony Jaswinski, and stars Blake Lively. And in The Shallows, a woman named Nancy, played by Blake Lively, travels to a secluded beach in Mexico after the death of her mother. While surfing, she gets attacked by an enormous great white shark and must figure out how to make it back to shore alive. Now, I'm a sucker for these kinds of survival movies that take place almost entirely in one small location. I think it's just cool that Blake Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, had his own survival movie in Buried, and now she gets her own. And Blake Lively delivers a great performance in this movie, and everything that takes place in the water here is really effective. However, so much of this movie is just too much empty flash and not enough meat. Blake Lively is the only truly great reason to watch this movie. It's because of her that you believe that this character, Nancy, is on a beach in Mexico. You forget that pretty much maybe most of this film was filmed on a set and that she's reacting to a green screen and stuff that's not really there, but it's because she's so good that you believe her. This is a really physically demanding role for her and she really pulls it off. Like, Blake Lively really makes every second of Nancy's ordeal here really grueling. And I will say that she definitely makes her character a lot more interesting than anything the script has for her. And The Shallows is at its best when it delivers what we expect. What I mean by this is that the director Jaume Collet-Serra really delivers just the primal fear of being attacked by a shark whenever the character of Nancy is in the water. You know, as soon as she just breaks the surface of the water, I was just freaking out. He definitely knows this environment well, and he knows how to use all the little details in the water to really kind of add to the story. The editing here by Joel Negron is also at its best when Nancy is in the water. He really plays around with pretty much the infinite amount of angles that are available to him to really make it seem like danger is always coming for her. And overall, The Shallows is a good-looking film, and I'm not just saying this because Blake Lively is in it and she's one half of the most attractive Hollywood couple out there. But the cinematography from Flavio Labiana really captures both the above-water stuff and the underwater stuff really well. The makeup they use for Nancy's injuries is suitably gruesome, and the makeup they use on Blake Lively to make her look dehydrated is also really effective. There's lots of cool sound design as well with how muffled and more terrifying everything gets underwater, and the musical score here by Marco Beltrami is good, but there are some interesting musical choices here, to say the least. Although I'm not really gonna blame whoever the supervisor was for the soundtrack, I'm actually kinda gonna blame the director. See, while Jaume Collet-Serra directs the survival aspects of The Shallows well, everything else is just so stylized that it's unnecessary, and so much of this movie is directed almost like a music video, and it just feels so out of place with what the movie really wants to be, and it just comes off as this really kind of lame bid to be hip and cool. Like I said earlier, there's just too much empty flash without any real meat. The same goes from Joel Negron's editing. It's effective in the water, but outside the water, the editing is actually kind of slow and really choppy. But the biggest issue with The Shallows really is the writing, because the main emotional crux of this movie is Nancy's relationship with her mother, which is kind of symbolized through her relationship with this beach. And just so much time is spent explaining this relationship with her mother and with the rest of her family, and not enough time is spent deepening these relationships or exploring the conflicts that her mother's death has brought. As a result, all these characters really are little more than vessels for dialogue, and dialogue that's not really written that well either. And Nancy does that kind of annoying thing that happens in some survival movies where she talks to herself, but in this context, you don't believe that she would be talking to herself. In the end, I have to say that The Shallows is just an okay movie. I think it's really strictly for Blake Lively fans, because if you go into this expecting like a shark movie, a survival movie, you'll only really get that half the time. But anyway, those are my thoughts on The Shallows. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.